and welcome to a special edition of Vision 2025. I'm your host, Kaka Ngofe, and currently at the Meetings Africa held at the Sandton Convention Center. And joining me to unpack the insights and overall theme of this year's event is Nombulelo Guliwe. Nombulelo, thank you so much for joining us. Can we first start by how the event has evolved over the years, and what are the key business trends that you're seeing emerge in the recent years?
So it's our 19th edition of Meetings Africa, and I always say in the year of G20, so it's so much more special. And it has evolved. 19 years ago, we didn't have the African representation that we have as part of our Meetings Africa. And it's something that we're proud of, because we've always said Meetings Africa is not just about South Africa, but it's a Pan-African show for the continent. So part of evolving is getting more and more representation from the African continent. This year, we've got 4 additional countries. We've got Guinea, Chad, Morocco, and Madagascar. And we are proud to have them. It just shows that, there's value in this trade show, and Africa is buying into it. So that's part of it. And the economic benefit, I always talk about the economic benefit of a trade show, because that's what we do. That's why we do what we do. So the creation of jobs is important. We're managing to increase the number of jobs that we're creating, as well as the contribution to the economy. So just on a positive growth from a trend perspective, and just driving that economic growth for South Africa.
You mentioned that it's not just about South Africa. How does a conference like this help contribute towards the South Africa's broader tourism sector?
So I always say you get the best of tourism under one roof at the Sandton Convention Center, and not just South African tourism, but African tourism, because you have all these products that are exhibiting here, and the world is here. We've got over 60 countries that are represented over the next 2 days that are going to be here, meeting with our exhibitors and actually doing a trade exchange in the form of tourism offerings. Based on that, those numbers, the positive economic growth and the trend, how we're contributing from our side, the key matrices that we measure is the economic growth and contribution to GDP. So we've contributed last year more than 420 million to the economy. We've created over a 3-day, and I always say a 3-day period, 770 jobs. That's just one Meetings Africa trade platform. Imagine all the other bids that we've won in South Africa, more than 80 until 2029, and the impact or positive impact that is going to have on the economy.
The sector took a knock during the pandemic, and we're also dealing with currency fluctuation. How has South African tourism worked to rebuild and recover from those numbers?
That's the good story of the MICE sector. Meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. When we went through, that very difficult period in 2019, early 2020, and we were starting to come out of COVID, had a negative impact, on tourism. But the MICE sector, the business sector, was one of the sectors, in fact, from a tourism perspective, that actually started to recover earlier. It recovered more than the leisure and the holiday side. So as much as there was a negative impact, from a MICE perspective, that market is resilient. It was quick to recover, and it's quick from a spending perspective as well. The receipts that we get from business tourism are much higher than leisure. So it talks to the resilience of the market, even in the eye or the storm of COVID that we all want to forget, having learned what we needed to learn from it. You are right, you talk Forex. We always position South Africa as a value for money destination, because we are. And we say, bring your euros, bring your dollars, bring your pounds. When you convert them to South African rand, you get value for money. And we've got world-class facilities. We have world-class tourism offerings, but you still get good value for money value, from the offerings that we have. So we don't shy away from the foreign exchange negative. Yes, it's got an impact on our investment from a marketing perspective, but for the tourists that are coming here, it's actually good for them.
And just continuing on rebuilding, what are the key goals that SA Tourism hopes to achieve by this conference?
So we hope, and then it's all about the economic impact of anything that you do, especially in the space. So it would be futile for us to meet for 3 days, have these meetings, have a number of people, under one roof, in Sandton with 60 countries that are here, with 27 African countries that are participating, over 113 SMMEs, but there's no economic impact. So if you ask me what a success looks like, after Meetings Africa on Wednesday, it's how much we've contributed to the economy. So we should be able to quantify it, and it must be more than what we got last year, which was 420 million. It's how many jobs we created, over this period. And it has to be more than the 770 that we created last year. So for me, those are the key measures. I mean, there are other things, but if we get those two right, for me, I'll be very happy with the economic impact and the positive economic impact that we've had on South Africa and the continent.
You've briefly just touched on this, but what regions or sectors within business tourism industry are you focusing on for growth, and how are you positioning South Africa to capitalize on these trends?
South Africa is a knowledge hub. I always lead with people, because people are the ones that come with the knowledge. People are the ones that do these amazing things in our sector, be it in the technology space, tech space, be it in the artificial intelligence space, be it in mining, agriculture. And that is the value of Meetings Africa and the MICE industry, because it's not just about tourism, right? People come here, they craft policies that are linked to different sectors that actually contribute as well positively to the South African or African economy. So we position MICE as a catalyst for us, not just for tourism, but to also grow trade and investment. Earlier on, as part of the panel discussion, we were talking about the importance of trade and investment when it comes to infrastructure. Because, we are, they've always said South Africa alive with possibilities, and it is so true. We've got all this space, all this investment opportunities that are there for our trade partners that come here. So Meetings Africa, for me, is also a catalyst for all of that going forward, to just drive trade and investment for South Africa and not just tourism.
And lastly, as the CEO of South African Tourism, what is your long-term vision for the sector, and how do you plan to position the country as a leading global destination for tourism?
I always say tourism is a to and fro. It's not one-sided. You can't do tourism alone. We can do domestic tourism, as South Africans. But if we're talking international tourism, we need our international partners. So we don't operate in a vacuum. So they are a critical part of the work that we do. I always say it's not a by the way. It's in the way that we do tourism, especially international tourism and the business tourism as South Africa. So we do engage with associations. In fact, as part of the festivities this week, we have ICA, the ICA Association, which is the International Conferences and Conventions Association, that is having their AGM, right here during Meetings Africa. That's something that's big for South Africa. And I know they also have a full day associations day where they craft their plans for the next financial year. So it's an integral part of how we do tourism in South Africa.
Thank you so much for joining us. Those were great insights. Collaboration and rebuilding the sector is key to driving investment. That was Nombulelo Guliwe, CEO of SA Tourism, giving us insights on this year's Meetings Africa and how it aims to improve South Africa's broader tourism strategy.